You're listening to TJs One of Us for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANY Podcast. You can also find us on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back, hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TJs One of Us for the Always Next Year Podcast. I'm your host, Shane. I am joined, as always, by Scott. Scott, how are you?
Good. This week I'm unfortunately back in California. We had a nice little visit last week when I was in town for a cousin's wedding, as we had brought up. So I'm back in California, doing all right, but excited to talk some Sixers basketball as per usual.
Yes, sir. I mentioned to you via text we are now officially the second most listened to segment on AMYP, so creeping up towards the top, and that has pretty much always been one of like our mediocre segments. So one, for everyone listening, thank you. Two, Scott, thank you. It's literally correlated with when you came on show. So obviously the content is significantly more entertaining now than what we had in the past. So we're going to keep that content going. 3 o'clock today was the NBA schedule release. And first of all, can we talk about for a second how dumb Major League Baseball is to also release a schedule today when no one gives a shit about that during a current season?
Major League Baseball they do everything wrong. Like, I don't understand how they're still wildly successful.
I honestly have no idea, but everything about what they do is incorrect. So I didn't even realize that was happening today. I was sitting here scanning through the Sixers schedule. You know, we have a dog shit baseball team, so I'm sitting here trying to get excited about something positive here in Philadelphia. And then I get the alert. All right, we start 15 out of the first 20 games on the road for the Phillies. And I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about? So with this schedule coming out for the 76ers, I'm stumbling on words all over again, which ordinarily, by the way, in studio segments, 100% I turn this shit off. I'm like, yo, we're starting over, pretend to be excited again. But we're just going to keep this going.
Stay organic here. Yeah.
We're going to keep this going. You had sent me a text a couple hours ago wanting to go over the 5 games that each of us were most excited for. So we have not told each other what games they are so far. I think we're probably going to have very similar games. I didn't go crazy in depth on any of mine. So why don't we start with you, one of your prime games that you are excited for?
I think the first game that I'm excited for, and let me find it here in the schedule, is when we see Jimmy Butler and we play the Heat, which is November 23rd. Yeah, I am jacked up to get Jimmy back here. I'm curious as to how he'll be received in the Wells Fargo Arena. I don't think it'll be kind, and it probably shouldn't be.
We do a really nice job, though, as a fan base for, we will boo the hell out of him every time he touches the basketball for the rest of his career, every time he does something positive in the Wells Fargo Center for the rest of his career. But they will undoubtedly sit there and have one of those 60-second things during a TV timeout, an appreciation video that'll end with him knocking down the shot that sealed it against Boston, where we finally beat Boston. And we'll give him his praise. And then 5 seconds later, he's going to drain a step back three somewhere, and we're going to lose our shit again. And that's what I'm excited about. Not necessarily him hitting that shot, but
we historically always play the Heat real tough, or they play us real tough. Like, it doesn't matter if we're good and they're bad, or they're bad and we're good. Like, we're both good, which I guess has kind of not been the case as of late. So I'm excited for that one from a fan perspective. So
I don't really know that the Heat are that good. I'm curious to see how it's going to all play out. But yeah, that was one of mine as well. So let's see. I'm gonna start off with like my kind of chunk of games here. I couldn't pick just one of these games in particular, but we have a West Coast swing starting early March, going March 1st to 6th or 1st to 7th, something like that. And we start against Kawhi and the Clippers. We move to LeBron, AD, and the Lakers. We go to Sacramento, and then we end in Golden State. And like that is a gauntlet, 7-8 days. And we don't really ever have very easy West Coast trips. And this year we're projected to be, so I've looked at like 15 different power rankings so far that have come out from people who are credible and people who are totally fucking not. And almost everyone have the Sixers top 4. And I think a lot's going to be made out of how they perform on that particular trip. And obviously it's a bit into the season there. But again, historically difficult trip. And I'm really excited to see how they handle going out west for those 4 games.
I had those 4 games circled as well, and weirdly, I think the game that is going to get us is playing the Kings. Do you remember last year when they were on their they were on their West Coast swing and the Kings got us? And I think the Kings are a good team. Buddy Hield has stepped up quite a bit.
I love Buddy Hield.
Yeah, he's one of those guys I'm constantly rooting for too, like because he stayed all 4 years of college, seems to be fairly genuine, and they got us last year, so I'm concerned about that game. Should I be concerned about Kawhi or LeBron and AD or Steph? And at that point we'll probably have Klay Thompson back too. Yeah, I probably should be more worried about those games, but we need to win the game against the Kings.
Yeah, and Philadelphia historically has issues winning the games we're supposed to win. So it would not shock me if we blow out the Lakers 2 days before and then lay an egg in Sacramento and then have a real grinded out game in Golden State and then just be kind of set it back after that. Again, those West Coast trips kill us. Last year, though. They do. Played decently enough against Golden State in there without Embiid, if I remember correctly. But so that like chunk of games there is for me was number 1. So why don't you move on to your next one? I'm sure again we'll probably have some things we agree.
Weirdly, so I kind of took a stranger approach to this, just games that might stick out to me and not so much other people.
Oh, good.
Let me see if I can find it. So we play the Knicks for the first time, which I think nobody else in the world has this game circled at all.
No,
I'm excited
why would you?
to beat the Knicks by like 45 points, so I can talk some shit to my buddies from college because they're all Knicks fans. So that is November 20th, I believe.
I'm the opposite. Like I am horrified to play games that against the worst of the worst teams in the NBA or in baseball or in football. Like those to me just seem to be like those are the games that I used to sit there like the day of and be like, I got nothing going on tonight. Tickets are like $8. I'm gonna go, and then I go and we get blown out and I get pissed the fuck off, which is what would happen if I attended that Knicks game. So I'm gonna not do that. But that's funny. You're sitting there and excited about a Sixers and Knicks game.
Me and the city of Philadelphia would appreciate if you wouldn't attend that game, Shane.
I will not attend that game. I will say though, in my last 4 years going to Sixers games now, I think 11-1, and the only loss I went to was the Brandon Ingram near buzzer beater for LA. Actually, it might have been a buzzer beater for LA there, and it was right in front of us. It was me and Danny, actually. We went. But yeah, so pretty good track record lately. So my next one is not so much like I love that it's happening, and it's always great to have such a watched and viewed game as the one that's going to be on Christmas, and it's going to be against Giannis, and that's great. But I'm more psyched that for fucking once, Disney on Ice is not going to be in the Wells Fargo Center. Like, why? Like, why the hell do The Flyers and the Sixers have to travel on extensive road trips during the fucking holidays and never be home because of that ridiculous Disney's on Ice that never changes. Get the hell out of here. I'm so happy.
I was literally just talking to my mom about this.
Oh my God.
Pissed about this segment because I tried. We have a crazy Christmas like celebration thing in our family where the girls all sit around and give gifts for like 15 hours. It's the worst thing ever.
Horrible.
So I tried. I was looking. I wanted us all to go to a Sixers game. That game is at 7:00 on Christmas Day. And I immediately got shut down for even thinking about that today.
Why'd you ask? Why'd you say anything? Me and Danny already sat there and said it at the wedding. We were like, hey, you good for Christmas? Yes, sir. Yeah. I am.
So my way around it is I was literally just going to buy like 10 tickets and be like, here, every man in the family, we're all going to this game. We leave at 5. No one will even realize we're gone. Like,
no, they wouldn't. That's a solid plan, honestly. We just hand them out in envelopes, put them in suit jacket pockets, and just walk around and just be like, just open this at 4:30 and be ready to go. That's it. Quality. Yeah. Well done. I am all for that, by the way. That would be a pretty fantastic Christmas. Far better than Sister Boxes, the ridiculousness that is that event.
I agree.
So go ahead and give us your next one here.
I think I'm trying to find where it is when we play Kawhi at Toronto. It is November 25th.
Where you just said two conflicting things. You said play Kawhi and then play Toronto.
Sorry. I did say conflicting things. So I was excited to play Toronto because I forgot for a second Kawhi Leonard got traded, which is a ridiculous slip. So I'm not excited to play Toronto at all. Just kidding there.
Yeah, why would you be?
Yeah. So the other one I was looking forward to, this is the last one I have marked after that slip up, is I'm excited when the Sixers play at Portland to see my boy CJ McCollum.
I knew
I'm thinking about making a road trip. I'm thinking about making a road trip up to Portland just because I've never been there before. First of all,
I would do that specifically for the food. So if you want to meet halfway, I would do that.
Oh, fuck yeah. I might be in for that one. I do kind of like to, center like weekend vacations around, NBA games, baseball games, football games, that kind of stuff. So this might be an easy sell. Yeah, so we'll get to see CJ. I mean, it'll be a great basketball game too. It'll be highly competitive. We'll definitely have to take that one offline and see if we can put something together there.
I would definitely do that. And again, food. One of us on this segment is slightly obese, and that would be me. All right, so I think this is my last one. I can't remember. But and no one else is going to think this. No one else is going to have this. I don't think anyway. But this is going to be my sit back and just watch on Twitter mode. So Joel Embiid theoretically should sit one of November 12th or 13th against either Cleveland or Orlando. That's the first back-to-back of the year. So he should, in theory, sit one of those two games. And I can't wait for if the Sixers are either white hot as a result of him playing or if they're ice cold and just haven't meshed yet, what Sixers Twitter is going to be like, because they will not handle that well. And I'm just going to sit back and be like, everyone was cool about 55 games played for JoJo, and the first opportunity to sit him, you wanted to play both games. I love watching Twitter burn on days like that. So for something completely unrelated to whether or not it's going to be good games or not, which they probably will not be, unless Markelle Fultz plays, then it's interesting on the 13th there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to some Twitter drama. Twitter drama. Fuck. I don't even drink. This is insane.
Yeah, that is crazy. So I've been thinking about this all day, and I've had basketball in my head literally since the second I woke up today. How many games are you? This is completely off topic here. How many games are you okay with Joel Embiid sitting out this year?
I'd say like 25 to 30. I'm pretty okay with that.
That's where I have the number 60 games in my head. That's what I want him to play. I think he'll protest that. But I think that's what he should aim for. And hopefully that is him getting a well-deserved rest at that point in the year.
Yeah, I just think that, well, first of all, and I've gone on this rant before, I just, the East is not overly deep this year, and I don't really sit there and think the regular season means that much. If you get a top 4 seed in the East, you're going to be fine. Obviously home court playing at Wells Fargo Center, which is crazy atmosphere in the playoffs, does help. But I mean, come on, look at some of the competition here. So to me, I would, I mean, you mentioned it last show. I would kind of take that Kawhi route and say, look, if it's a lengthier travel or a game day than travel day that you're, I don't know, on a bus as opposed to a plane, whatever, like just err on the side of caution. Try to extend the shelf life of what Joel Embiid is, because we all at this point kind of assume it's going to be short. So if you can, allow the Horford signing to sit there and balance some of that out, Kyle O'Quinn, and even though he looks like a fucking linebacker right now, he is huge. He is massive. But there's talent there. So, I would be pretty cool with that 25 to 30 game stat.
Yeah. I think we as a city would appreciate that. I think the only person that will not be down to sit 25 games is Joel Embiid himself. So that's going to be the toughest part.
Yeah, and I will say, look, last year, when you take losses the way that they took last year in that final series and take that Game 7 loss, you speak out of a place of emotion and kind of just like that impulsive frustration. And it isn't what you would think coming into a new season, hungry and eager. Last year at the podium, he said, look, I understand this is going to have to get managed differently. There's, I wasn't able to play a lot in the second half and gel with my new teammates. I was questionable every night going into a playoff game. Some nights I had it, other nights I didn't. I get it. Well, that's after losing Game 7 on a 58 doink off a rim. What's he going to be like on, 2 months into the season where his legs are still fairly fresh? I think he's going to fight. But that's where Brett Brown and the 76ers is, have to sit there and put their foot down and keep him sidelined.
I think we're dealing with a little bit of a different Joel Embiid too now. He is a little bit older and, he's experienced a little bit more. So he understands the main goal here is to win a championship. So
yeah, I have a point to that a little later as well. My last one I had was obviously just the home opener. Anytime you can play Boston, you can basically assume I'm going to hate life that entire day and through all 48 minutes of that basketball game. But there's a lot of interesting storylines going through this way. It's Boston's had our number forever. We finally figured them out last year. We take Al Horford, a guy who we have notoriously loathed throughout his entire NBA tenure, certainly in Boston. And now he's an integral part to our future over the next 4 years or whatever it is. And then they get their new fresh start with Kemba as opposed to Kyrie. So it's going to be interesting. And it's opening night for the Sixers, and they always give us a good game. So that one for me, for sure, is another one that I'm looking forward to.
And also, that's the first time we're getting basketball back in the city in a while. So please rescue us from this just terrible drought of sports. I mean, the Eagles will be back then too, but I am itching to get some Sixers basketball back in my life right now.
Same. So did you have any other games before we move into some seedings here?
No, I mean, I was going to mention the home opener as well. The only other thing too is, they're only home against Milwaukee during Christmas, which I'm a little bummed about because unless we can sneak away and get to that game, I will not be seeing them there. The West Coast swing is good for me. I selfishly look at games that I have a chance to go to because I have to try and see the Sixers whenever I can. So the whole West Coast swing, hopefully I'll be able to sneak in and get some crazily expensive tickets against the Lakers or Clippers. But, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, just overall seeing the schedule come out, like almost takes like a little bit of a weight off my shoulders. I'm relieved we're almost there. I almost made it back to the season. Can't wait.
Yeah, and I kind of like you, man. I sat here and like I always know when the NBA schedule comes out, and I'm like, oh, good. Like it, just like you said, it kind of takes the edge off. You're like only 60 days away, or whatever it ends up being now. But like with as bad as this Philadelphia Phillies team is, and as unfun and unwatchable as they are, like I fucking need the Sixers basketball more than I need fucking oxygen right now. Like it's absurd. I am so unhappy with Philadelphia sports. It's not even funny. So yeah, October 23rd. Cannot get here soon enough. The only other game I had on here, and I won't mention too long, but it's the fact that it's the tentative possible fly the process to an away game. So anyone who listens to Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast with Mike Levin and Spike Eskin, they have done like an away trip where they, fly the process and fly their little fan base that they have there, and they go see an away game. Last year they saw Cove in Minnesota and in Sarich, and this year they are tentatively looking to do Indiana to see TJ, which is awesome. And I am just interested in the post game because I'm pretty sure TJ will go out and actually party with them. And he's such a funny guy. So that was the only other game. And that's actually on New Year's Eve. So like, even if that's, I don't know if they're going to go because it's New Year's Eve, but holy shit balls. If TJ McConnell is going to go out with 600 Sixers fans who have traveled to Indiana to do fucking who knows what in Indiana with TJ McConnell, that's going to be hilarious. That's going to be like must-see TV for me. Screw the ball drop, and I'm just going to watch that.
Have you ever been to Indiana?
I have not.
I used to venture out there at my old job a couple times a year. Great city. I like the people there a lot. It is fucking cold, man. In the winter, it's so cold. They have literally bridges built between buildings. You don't have to go outside because it gets that cold. Like
Jesus.
So,
well,
yeah.
I'm gonna not do that. I am gonna not fly with the process.
No, I'm always looking for an excuse to do something, fun like that on New Year's that takes me away from going to a club and spending like $200. But good God, you will not catch me in Indiana.
All right. So last week we started with our NBA power rankings of teams that were not expected to make the playoffs, maybe a few that were like borderline. So this week we're going to open up with seeds 5 through 8 in the West. So we may have different names. We have not discussed this yet either. So we'll start with you, and let's start with the 8th seed here. Who do you have for your 8th seed in the West?
My 8th seed in the West, I have the Pelicans.
You're damn right you do. So do I.
Yeah.
Sneaking in.
Yeah, that was almost an ode to you throwing them in the 8th seed. So.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So tell everyone, why do you have the Pelicans in there?
I think the end of the West is completely up for grabs, and I think they're hungry enough to sneak in. Honestly, I was thinking about it. I was like, is it in their best interest to make the playoffs now? Is it not? Honestly, the West is such a weird situation right now. Like, I think it's best for them to sneak in and get a little playoff experience, get Zion, squaring up against probably LeBron or Kawhi or something, and getting smoked in the first round and getting a good video of him crying in the locker room or something. And, he'll learn from that quite a bit. So
I'll have his Joel moment.
Yeah.
I think if they sneak in as an eighth seed, I don't have the same faith in their potential playoff run that they could go on. But if they sneak in as even a 7th seed, fucking watch out. Pelicans could make some actual noise and steal a series or two. I think they're going to be that good because they're too young and to know any fucking better. So I'm stoked for the Pelicans. Who do you got as your 7th seed, since I have the same 8th as you?
We had mentioned them a little bit earlier. I have the Kings. I think the Kings had a great year last year, and
Okay.
I almost expected them to sneak into the playoffs. Part of the reason I have them there too is I think the bottom of the Western Conference is weak. It's real weak, and it's right for a team like the Kings that they're just a bunch of tryhards. And I don't mean that in a negative way. For the first time in my life, they all literally just try very, very hard, and they win a lot of games. They were a great league pass team last year. I unfortunately do not get the chance to watch the Sacramento Kings because they're blacked out. It's ridiculous how many games are blacked out on the West Coast. But I do enjoy watching them any chance I can, and I think they're going to make a small run for it.
I could totally see that. I have them sitting just outside the playoffs at number 9. And believe you me, I was struggling as to whether or not to put the Pelicans or the Kings in there. Pelicans overtook that because I have a hard on for that team, apparently. But the Kings are fun, and like they're another team, not unlike the Pelicans, who like they probably shouldn't be as good as they could be, but they work their ass off and they just grind out games. Like I remember playing them last year, and it was just like one of those games where they just out hustled us to every single loose ball, and then they just made every single one of the 76ers mistakes pay. And like as cliche as that is, like they were just the hungrier team that night. And that could go far in the Western Conference right now. I was a little different. Go ahead.
I think also too the way that the West is, and because the NBA is made up strictly of duos now, when one part of the duo sits out, that's going to leave a lot of games up for grabs. So, for example, when like Paul George sits out or whatever, I mean, Kawhi is not going to be able to play every night either. So there are going to be games the Clippers just give up. I don't know if that will line up well with the Kings schedule, but that kind of theme will carry throughout the year a little bit. And I think the Kings are one of those teams that just capitalize on everyone else's weakness.
That's a really good point. And in today's NBA, where almost no one plays 82 games anymore, especially the stars of the West. I mean, it's James Harden maybe and Russell Westbrook might be the only two that will play all 82. And now that they have each other, they may not even have to. But yeah, LeBron takes his time off. AD, I don't foresee playing 82 games, and the two you mentioned, obviously not either. I went Spurs. They were the 7th seed last year as well. There's nothing overly sexy about them. There is never anything overly sexy about the Spurs. They just so fundamentally sound all the time. And then I think that I continue to sit there and think DeRozan is better than what the NBA kind of gives him credit for. Like the NBA kind of credits him to being like a B-level star. I genuinely believe that with like that kind of fundamental direction over there, and that they're just such a smart organization. They're like the Tampa Bay Rays of basketball. They're just fucking smart. And I feel like they can find ways to continue to make him and the rest of that, their rotation role guys over there really, really special. I don't think that they're going to make as much noise in the playoffs as what a Pelicans could, or if the Kings sneak in, the Kings do. But again, I don't see them not making the playoffs.
That is an incredible comparison because the Rays do everything everyone hates in baseball.
Oh, yes.
Like, throwing out openers or whatever the fuck you want to call it, which works. I mean, nobody likes to admit it, but it works statistically, and that's the sabermetrics behind stuff. That's exactly how Pop's been for a long time. He doesn't care what anyone else thinks. He's going to sit there at the bar and drink his white wine proudly and just lead his team to winning. So
on 1-year deals.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think, unfortunately, this is the first time that they do slip out when a younger team's able to upend them. But I fully expect to be eating crow at the end of the year on that one. I sat back and, in my head, weighed if I want to say that Pop's going to miss the playoffs or not. And I'm going to take the risk here and say they won't make it.
I don't know. I trust in Pop more than I think any coach or manager in sports or any active coach or manager in sports right now. So I think that if he's got even a fraction of talent on that team, he's going to make that. He will find a way to get the most out of that roster and get them in. But let's slide into the 6th seed now. Who do you have, man, in your 6th spot?
Okay, I have the Jazz here.
Same.
Okay, I figured we would be the same on this one because they're an obvious pick to be 5, 6, 7, maybe a 4 seed. Like they're just kind of there. Like they stink most of the time. Like Donovan Mitchell is really good, but like not really good at the same point. Like they confuse
Donovan
me.
Mitchell
I don't know what to
good.
think about. But sometimes he comes out and has a great week. Like that's what confuses me about them because I'll go all in and come up with these crazy takes that Mitchell stinks, and then he'll come out and drop 40. Like, I don't know what to think about this guy, but they confuse me as a team.
They don't particularly have an identity, so I'll give you that. But they win. Like they're just good, and defensively they're sound. They're long too. They're just so many parts of them are so new age NBA that it just kind of clicks, and like it's not crazy sexy, but it works. So to me, I similarly to you, I feel like no matter where or when the season ends, they're going to be 4 through 6, 4 through 7 in the West. And 7 to me is, I think, a bit of a stretch. That's if someone gets hurt. I just think that they match up really, really well with the talent that's over there in the West. Or at least they certainly did last year. This year, I guess we'll have to see a little more. But yeah, they're like the least sexiest good team in the West.
Yeah, the weird thing too, and I'm shocked that I didn't know this as a pretty big NBA fan up to this point. Remember all that stuff that happened when Russell Westbrook got into a confrontation with someone in the audience?
Yeah.
It allegedly, said a racial slur at him, and I kind of think he went at him a little bit, and I don't think it was unjustified. You can't use those words. But in Utah, apparently it's a fucking dogfight every time you play there. Like it makes no sense, but the fans are animals, and everyone hates going to Utah.
Yeah, that's like a well-documented thing by NBAers.
Yeah, I had almost no idea until all that Russell Westbrook stuff happened, and it made a lot of sense. Like there's not a whole lot to do in Salt Lake City, so
nope.
You're going to Jazz games and you're going to be fucking mean about it.
Oh, that's the title. I'm going to have to write this down. I think that's what we're going to have to call this episode.
There you go.
So we had the same team sitting in our 6th spot. I don't know if we're going to be the same here. Do you have the Lakers or do you have Portland in 5?
I have Portland at 5.
All right, me too.
Okay.
So why don't you, since you are basically their adopted fan at this point, why don't you tell everyone why you have Portland there, and then I'll tell you why I agree.
I have Portland there because CJ and Dame are great together. I think they were actually the 3 seed last year, which is kind of strange. So they're going to be dropping down just because of what the rest of the NBA did. They lose Enes Kanter but get back Nurkic. He had a pretty horrific injury last year.
Yep, worst thing I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, it was fucking gross. But so he's back. They're great offensively, but they just go through periods where they suck, which is their biggest flaw as a team, in my opinion. They had a good run, but I think that's what keeps them from being in the top 4, in my opinion, is they will have a cold streak, and I don't know how they're going to match up against the other top 4 or the top 4 teams in the West. That's my concern for them.
Yeah, it's weird. Like their 2 stars are, again, not super sexy when you sit there and you take a look at, and they should be. And we talked about it. It was either we talked about it on the show or I was having a conversation with Rob just in studio on a different day. But their playing style are so similar that they shouldn't work together. And they do. And that makes them that much more deadly because the style of their game and rotation doesn't have to change if one of them come off the court. Like there's no multiple identities of that team. everyone just knows what's going to happen. And that to me is like invaluable, because when you have to sit there and say, hey, we have a guy who, like Jimmy last year, Brett Brown had to sit there and adapt to what his style was, and then they had to adapt a different way to try to get Tobias Harris the ball. Like, they don't have to do that there. It's just one style of basketball and it works. But yeah, so almost all the same here with the exception of my Spurs pick, but I'm super glad that you also had the Pelicans in the 8th spot. Can't even lie. To me, that is probably my favorite part of that little bit there, is the fact that we agreed on that.
Yeah. The last point I kind of wanted to touch on here, there are 2 teams that we both left out, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they're strange teams to look at. So we got the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks. What do you think they both stink? Do you think the Timberwolves come out and look good and then underachieve for the rest of the year like they just always seem to do? What do you think is going to happen with them?
I do not trust the Timberwolves for anything. I think that's the biggest thing. Dallas does intrigue me. I think that I question so much big guys who get knee or ankle injuries and how they come back. And I'm concerned as to how he's going to come back and play. I mean, unicorn-esque, or is he just going to be a big who isn't the same guy anymore? Same kind of concern that I obviously have for KD. So I think a lot's going to hinge on how well his game adjusts and how they manage him over there in Dallas. So that to me is the biggest thing. But they're definitely intriguing. I have them at 10. But I don't know. What do you got them at?
I have them falling right around there too, but I have them marked as a big league pass team. I have a feeling I'm going to be watching a lot of Dallas Mavericks games. Just every year I tend to pick up one strange team that they might not even be that good. I think that's part of the way that I got, aside from the CJ thing, that's part of the reason I like the Trailblazers is when you're on the West Coast, you got to adapt to watching the late basketball games. So you pick a team, and it has to be out of market, because as I said before, they black out every team in California, which is fucking stupid. I pay so much money for this goddamn league pass thing. Give me one team. So I have a feeling I'll be watching a lot of Mavericks games as I sit and grind out some extra work in the office, just because Luka Doncic is just so electric. He'll come out and score.
He's
30
not
points
though.
And,
he's so.
I love Luka. I got all in on him last year in the hype. He's so young and so green, but I love what he was doing at the end of games.
I don't know, man. Maybe I just hate white guys. I don't know, but he's just. He looks like us out there. He's kind of chunky, but not. And there's no tone or definition to his body. He's not overly flashy. He's just good. He's a taller, faster TJ McConnell. I'm not excited to watch Luka Doncic at all. I hate the kid.
It just works, and maybe I'm just seeing myself in the mirror. Just if I was
probably
a foot and a half taller, but
and chunky.
But exactly. He goes out there and he was on an electric run last year. I was all in on Luka mania. It was very, very entertaining. Give me a quick shot at Cubes in the audience too. I'm always a sucker for that. So I don't know.
I think my favorite memory for him was draft night, because no one gave a shit about Luka Doncic. It was all about his mom, who is a babe. But yeah, Luka Doncic to me just doesn't do it. But I recognize I recognize how good he should be a Spur. He should be playing with Pop.
That hits the nail on the head. He should be there.
That's pretty much it.
It would be so boring and so good together.
That's what I'm saying. But who knows, man? Maybe he picks up a little bit of flash in today's new NBA. But the NBA has been catered to him now. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna get on a whole other rant. But yeah, Dallas just outside the playoffs, unless Unicorn, blanking on his name again. Unless he comes back healthy. Yeah, thank you. Unless he comes back healthy and can contribute 60, 65 games at the clip that he was in New York.
He's definitely a red flag. He's had some legal trouble. He's had that surgery. Who knows where his head's at?
I always forget about the legal trouble. I mean, this is the second time you've mentioned it, and like each time I'm like, that's right, because nothing happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I almost feel bad for bringing it up, but, because I don't know the full story. I do want to be pretty clear on that. I never like to allege anything on anyone, but he did go through a lot with that. And I'm sure it was very stressful. So it's not like he was just able to concentrate on rehab. Like, granted, he was settling all this and talking to very expensive lawyers in his probably New York penthouse at the time, or down in Dallas, like in another penthouse that he probably has now. But, it definitely was not just like him sitting around rehabbing, working on getting back.
Yeah, certainly not. Before we get back into some Sixers stuff, let's roll to this has actually been, at least from some of the feedback that I've gotten from some of our listeners, what they have enjoyed most. So the fact that we now do it correctly and not incorrectly as I did the first time that we rolled this out, are media players of the week. So we knew that some of the other topics that we had today were going to go a little longer, so we actually did finally discuss our top 5 media players of the week, and we have kind of lessened it down to, what do we settle on, 4 or 5 combined here. I think
somewhere in there, yeah.
4 with like a short 5th one. So let's start with your first one. Let's start with your Kellerman one.
Okay, so this may have been an older take, but I am seeing it for the first time now, and it's so absurd that we need to talk about it.
It's not absurd. I've thought about this the entire time that we've been sitting here talking.
I know, and I figured you're going to find some way to get around it here. So Max Kellerman made a claim that he would rather give Andre Iguodala the ball in crunch time when he was on the Warriors over Steph Curry, which is so crazy to me. Number one, Steph Curry is the best three-point shooter of all time. The guy knocks down threes from half court in. You can't leave him unguarded anywhere. There is nowhere on the court that if I'm the opposing team that I'm letting Steph Curry go. And I think that's the only way to defend this take, is that Steph Curry's going to have 4 people on him. So, Andre Iguodala can knock down an open 3, but there's no way you're not giving the greatest jump shooter in NBA history the ball at the end of the game. It's stupid.
It is, but so all right. So there have been articles now, and it's always Andre Iguodala, by the way. But there was another article that came out. Who would you rather have the ball? And so I'll ask you, who would you rather have the ball the last, 15 seconds of a shot clock, final shot of the game? LeBron James or Andre Iguodala?
LeBron.
Okay. The article states, and as the same as what I would take it is, the edge is Andre Iguodala. There's a recklessness to LeBron, and the biggest thing that I can ever say, and this is why I think so many people would gravitate to it would be the LeBron or it would be the Steph Currys, is the fact that like they can do whatever they want on the court, and if someone breathes near them in a critical moment of the game, they're getting that call, and like that's that extra layer of security for that play to actually work out for the LeBrons, for the Steph Currys and things like that. So Iguodala, who has had several game-winning shots, who has had several key clutch game-tying shots throughout his career, whether it be in Philly, Denver, or obviously Golden State. There's also been a handful in Kansas too, which weren't game winners, but they were like kind of like Jimmy Butler's last year, put the game right out of reach. He does have that kind of clutch gene, and he has to actually knock that shot down for 2 reasons. 1, he isn't going to get that call. 2, if he does get that call, the man cannot fucking shoot free throws to save his life. He has to shoot that. He has to make that shot. And he has this ability to create his own shot that I don't think people appreciate enough. The difference between he and Curry is the fact that Curry has the quickest release of anyone I've ever seen in the history of the NBA. I don't know how he picks up his dribble and lets go as quickly as he does. Andre Iguodala can't do that. But Andre Iguodala is more athletic and has more lift. So if he needs to get that extra 3-4 inches on a hop and he has that extra wingspan, he can shoot over people if need be. And he doesn't have to take a shot that's all awkwardly angled with 4 guys on him. To me, yeah, I'd probably give the ball to Andre Iguodala.
Okay, so I think you brought up an important thing. I think there's definitely different tiers of a last second shot, because there's the time when you get 24 to 15 seconds to bring the ball up, or you get it at half court and you play around with it up top and you set a play, and you get a big guy to set a pick and you try to get someone open and you do something. Or, if you're a shitty team in the NBA, you just dribble the ball for 23 seconds and then try and throw up a three and go to overtime and lose. But
fair.
To me,
three
if
possessions in a row.
Yeah. So I think in my head is what I'm talking about is last second. There's under 5 seconds left in the game. That I have to give to Steph Curry. I can see now the defense. If there is 24 seconds and we're drawing up a play, Andre Iguodala might be the move then, because it gives Steph Curry can be used as a decoy almost. You give him the ball, he plays around with it a little bit. Magically, Andre Iguodala is wide open for that corner three that I think he has just made a career out of in Golden State now. I don't think I won't say he's ever missed it, but he's very, very good at that shot. Like that, I can agree to. I cannot agree to giving Andre Iguodala a last second shot. No, can't do it.
I don't know, man. Whether it's 7 seconds left or 15 or 24, and again, it's hard to make that statement and feel like 100% behind it. Your own words, as I sit here and say I would give the ball to Andre Iguodala, knowing the other person on this comparable end is the greatest shooter in the history of the game. But I think just again, taking a look at all things considered there, what you mentioned about he's obviously going to draw double, triple teams, maybe more. Iguodala is the forgotten guy who can knock down shots on, at least 5-6 different spots on the floor for you. So I would go Dre. But I do think that was a quality take there by Kellerman, mainly because we just talked 5 minutes on something that probably never needed to have a conversation. So that's the sign of a good take.
You need to reach out to Max Kellerman on Twitter and tell him you think it was a good take, because it's going to be like you and 5 other people in America that agree with him on this one.
That's it. And one of those 5 will not be Andre Iguodala.
Yeah, he's too humble for that.
I don't even know if it's humble. I think he's just he's just quiet. He's a weird dude, man. Did you ever read his book, by the way? I can't remember if I ever asked you that.
No, I haven't read it yet. I have it on my ever-growing to-read list, so
just get the audiobook and listen to it on your forever drive to work.
That's a good call while I'm sitting on 405 traffic.
That's what you should do.
Yeah.
So my first one here was James Harden. So this was like a Floyd Mayweather-esque kind of thing for me, but Floyd's a jackass. So that's the difference. So apparently, whilst walking around I don't even know where you could possibly be walking around and find a family that was just kind of basically dumpster diving for food, trying to any type of scraps as they could to feed their family. And like, okay, times are tough. That is what it is. James Harden just says, here's 10 grand and pulls out $10,000 in cash. Who does, outside of Alex Rodriguez, who apparently travels with $380,000 worth of shit in a rental car? People like that. That was the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
I don't even feel bad for him. But
no, how can you? He's a moron. But learn from shit like that. Why are you just carrying around a stack of that kind of money where you're just like, oh, these people look hungry, I'm going to give them $10,000? That's like here, videotape this. Let me get the rest of America to love me if they don't already. Good for you that you gave someone 10 grand, but you're a jackass. What kind of person does that? Walks around with that? I don't know what your thoughts were on it, but every time I see shit like that, I just want to slap people.
It confused me a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because I did have the same initial thought. It's like, oh, when I walk around, I carry $20, not $10,000. And I'm sure that family, say he had a normal amount of money for even a very wealthy person, maybe a couple $100. Had he given them a couple $100, they still would have been like, this was awesome. We appreciate it. I think James Harden probably just has lost grasp with reality and what real money actually is. Because
clearly $
10,000 fixes a lot of problems for most of the world. to him, he literally didn't think twice about it. He probably just like snapped his fingers, and his boy holding like some crazy Louis Vuitton purse, like pulled out a stack of Benjamins and just handed it over to this poor family. Yeah, like that's just how I picture all these guys live.
So do you think that there was like $100,000 in that Louis Vuitton purse, and the family saw that he pulled out one stack as opposed to 10?
Yeah, I do believe he had more money than 10 grand on him.
But like, does the family see it? Like, can you imagine?
No. I think what happens is he grabbed the money and walked over to them and told his boys like, hey, just like hang here for a second. I'm going to go do this thing. Like, which if you see James Harden stepping around, who, you know, even though he's a guard in the NBA, is a giant guy, like with a huge intimidating beard. Like you see him in a dark alley when you're dumpster diving for food, you're probably a little scared initially. And then you're like, oh, what's up? It's the beard. Like, yeah. I'm gonna at least like get a cool autograph from him or something.
Or 10 grand.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, James Harden's a good guy. I appreciate stories like this, but that is a lot of money to be carrying around.
It just struck me as odd. So we'll do our quick one here, your Big Baby one, which if you guys have not seen the video of Big Baby Davis, holy shit, you need to watch it. Why don't you tell everyone what occurred during that Big 3 game?
So there was a Big 3 game, which I've got to be honest, I have watched absolutely zero Big 3 games ever. But I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw a highlight that says, you know, Nate Robinson calls game and gets fouled or something. Terrible tweet. I don't know who and hyped it up more and talked about what actually happened. So Nate Robinson is at the top of the key. It's getting to the end of the game. Jumps, takes a 3. Glenn Big Baby Davis is guarding him, which is a little strange, but hey, there's not as many guys in the court, so you got to do whatever you can at the end of the game. He gets beat by Nate Robinson off the ball and just falls and grabs Nate Robinson simultaneously, lifts him in the air, and as Nate Robinson drains this jump shot, he is just in Glenn Big Baby Davis's arms, and it is just a ridiculous spectacle. It was a hilarious video. I was sitting at my desk at work, and I giggled at it. I'm not going to lie.
You basically Dirty Dancing him.
Yeah, exactly. He did.
It was absurd.
Yeah, that's got to be a T-shirt somewhere. But it was funny. I think I might have to tune into the Big 3 if that's what's happening all the time. But yeah, I thought it was a cool little thing that came up this week.
He got crossed up prior to that too, fell to the ground, and he's like 731 pounds now. Like, that's not an exaggeration. That's his weight. Was able to get up with all 731 of those pounds, kind of get back into the play to get to Nate. What is he, 3.5 feet tall now?
Yeah.
Catch him and then hold him. It was a bizarre sequence of events there to end that game. But Big 3 news, Big 3. We'll definitely touch on this in a few weeks when it comes out, but there is a new 30 for 30 coming out in, what is that, October?
It was September 10th.
September 10th.
Coming out. Yeah, so there's I'm not sure if you've seen the commercials for it, but there's one that's coming out talking about the Bulls, and it's like a 4-part series or 5-part series or something. It's a big event, and I'm pretty pumped about that. But I'm equally as pumped up for the one coming out on September 10th that is strictly about Dennis Rodman, because he is an interesting guy. I want to know what's going on with his life more off the court than on the court, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I will definitely be tuning into that one. And I mean, I watch all the 30 for 30s anyway, but this one I will have starred on my calendar, and I will absolutely be seeing it.
Yeah, he is quite possibly one of him and like Birdman for me are two people that I would sit there and be like, I just want to know what the hell goes on during the 20 hours a day that you were not on a basketball court. Bizarre humans, but that will be a great 30 for 30s, the series in its entirety, the whole thing on the Bulls there. So I'm sure we'll talk about that again in, like I said, a few weeks now or next month, whenever it is. But our last media player of the week is former Sixer great, number soon to be retired in Golden State for some reason, Jahlil Okafor. Uh, and by now, I think probably most people who listen to our show have probably seen this video of Ja working out. And holy shit, does he look good? Like, really, really good. We mentioned before, or I mentioned before we actually started recording it. He legitimately looks like he handles the basketball better than most of our guards, and his pull-up jump shot is cleaner than, I don't know, everyone on the 76ers right now. And not that he ever had an issue scoring the basketball, but he was basically a strictly low-post guy, which does not work in today's NBA. He went vegan, got traded and kicked around, a former 3 overall pick, and has accomplished very little in terms of what his expectation probably was coming into the league. Finds himself a new home, and I don't know, what percentage of the MVP votes do you think he gets this year?
I mean, he's going to now be the greatest player of our generation, right? That's just how
he's our
smart
Michael.
we are as a city. Like, whew, goddamn, I'm so angry seeing this video. Because there's nothing negative you can say about him. He looks great weight-wise. He looks so athletic. He looks long. He's draining jump shots. I mean, you just got to hope no one taught him how to play defense still, so that, he is just not going to succeed at all in NOLA. But I am kind of torn because I do want to see them do well. So, this is bad news. It's not good.
It is not good. That being said, holy shit. That being said, if the difference, but like I am willing to drop my hatred for Jalil and never working out in Philadelphia, which by the way, I still think that like his story's kind of sad here as this whole process was kind of wrapping up. Like there was those interviews of him coming out where he's like, yeah, man, they don't invite me anywhere. Like I don't go to like team chapel with them. I don't go out to dinner with them. Like I hang out with my uncle. He made me go vegan. I work out all the time. I just try to get my shot. And like, no one gave a shit about him. And like, now he's actually getting a shot. So I will drop my hatred for him if it means that he helps in part propel them into an 8th seed in the West or more.
Yeah, I agree with that. He did kind of get a rough go at it. I mean, he didn't get a fair chance, and he was at a rough spot in the process era. I mean, that was when, I know the two of us were watching it, but that was when most people were laughing at us as a city and, making fun of Sam Hinkie, and they didn't get the bigger picture. So it was kind of sad when you put it that way. I do kind of feel for the guy a little bit. So maybe he gets new life, and I'm sure we'll still be angry if he does well, because that's just our way as Philadelphia fans. But yeah,
I think that at some point this year, based on how certain players perform, we should have a Philly Outcast episode of all of our ex Philadelphia, no matter if they were here for a day before they got bought out or they were here for several years, like ex Sixers that we now need to not succeed, who are unfortunately succeeding, and build a roster out of them and see what we can't come up with. I think that'd be another interesting bit. All right. Do you have any other media things that we missed here? Did I get them all?
No, I think we pretty much got everything here. That was, as we'd said, this is a slower time in the year, so luckily things like this keep coming up, and we keep being able to nitpick small Instagram videos of Jahlil Okafor like playing 30 seconds of basketball. And turn that
totally
into
overreact
content. Oh yeah, that's all this part of the year is for. So yeah, that's kind of what this bit's all about. Just keeping everyone abreast on what's going on in the basketball world a little bit, and overreacting about things.
As we all do in Philadelphia over everything and the history of everything. So let's go into, and I was excited about this one, an NBA nickname segment. So the NBA may encourage marketability from their players and personality from their players more than any other sport in North America right now. Like it's an image game. We've talked about it so often, and they do such a nice job of encouraging that. So we're going to give you 1, 2, 3, however many of some of our favorite either nicknames or alter egos of players over our lifetime. And then we're going to sit here and we're going to try to speak new nicknames into existence for certain players. So first, we'll start with you, Scott. Favorite either nickname or alter ego of an NBAer over the last 25, 30 years.
Okay, so this no joke, I was sitting in my desk. I was eating my lunch, scrolling through NBA Twitter, looking for some nicknames. And one of my buddies came up to me and went, dude, did you know that Brook Lopez has the best nickname in the NBA right now? And I was like, Brook Lopez, that weird, ugly looking dude? And he was like, yeah, they call him Splash Mountain. And I was like, wait, what? So Splash Mountain is his nickname because he is 7 feet tall and just drains threes now. Apparently that was a thing when he was in LA. I had never heard of it before, but I am all in on this nickname. I think it's hilarious. I think it's so appropriate. And Brook Lopez has no personality, so he does not know how to play into this.
He does not. Oh my God, Splash Mountain. I don't know that I dig it. I don't know that it can stick. I feel like anything related to Splash needs to be purely a Golden State thing.
That's true.
But I accept the awkward level of what's going to come of this. If people can, like, can you imagine commentators sitting there or analysts interviewing him and acknowledging him via that nickname? Hilarious.
I imagine in my head him coming in. They do the intros. They're like, starting at center, 7 feet tall and awkward as hell, Brook Splash Mountain Lopez. And then he jumps up and misses the chest bump with whoever's at the end and walks down.
I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, so I had 3 here. How many nicknames did you have, by the way?
I have 2, and then one that's not a nickname but is worth mentioning.
Fair. All right, so that's perfect. So you went with a current NBAer, so I will go with a current NBAer right now. I don't really think people refer to him as this now, but at one point they did, and I thought it was fucking gold. Baby-faced assassin for Seth Curry.
I do like that.
Now he has that awkward kind of beard that you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have a beard, but because you're in the NBA, you're allowed to have a beard and look ridiculous. But babyface assassin, and he's a babyface even with the beard. It just doesn't make sense. But to me, I love it. I love it. I sit there and think back to Davidson days and looking like he's 13 years old in the court.
Yeah, Steph Curry is the oldest guy in the Warriors too, which makes his nickname even more hilarious now.
Yeah, it's true. He is 49 now. He and Vince Carter.
Yep.
The oldest guys in the NBA.
Yeah. All right, let's kick it to a classic nickname here. We'll break it off because I got another current NBAer in there after this. So we got Charles Barkley, the round mound of rebound.
Yeah, that was.
It's so. I tweeted this out earlier in the day. It's so classic. It's so Philadelphia. It fits him well. Chuck is just an all-time talent. Off the court, and he was an incredible player on the court for us. So this nickname, it's perfect.
Yeah, I laughed out loud when I saw that was your tweet response to the poll or to the question or whatever was posted on the AMYP account. But that is and it's a perfect nickname for him. Hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not so much for the early part of his year, but the latter half of his tenure for certain.
Yeah. So I tell you what, I tweeted out a picture of his golf swing because who doesn't like looking at Charles Barkley's golf swing? But the reason I did that is because I was trying to find a picture of him looking a little rotund, and he was pretty slim during most of his playing days. He didn't get heavy until he probably went to Phoenix and, near the end of his career. I kind of forgot that he was in pretty good shape in the beginning. So.
Oh yeah. He was, like I said, he was a bit of an athletic freak for his size. I also went back and went to another one. We've referenced him on another show when we were talking about jerseys, but the glove, Gary Payton. I think that to me, when I hear the glove, even if I'm on a baseball field, if I just hear, oh, hey, the glove, I'm like, nope. All I think of, Gary Payton. Perfect nickname for a player who I still don't think was ever as appreciated as he should have been. But love me some Gary Payton. And I definitely need that throwback jersey.
Oh, that is a dope jersey. I think he's one of those players that I am guilty of not fully appreciating. He was in the NBA, when we were a bit younger, and I had never done 5. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty good at doing my homework on NBA players. I I probably watch way too much old tape, but he's one of those guys I've never fully gone down that road on. So I might have some homework to do now.
Should definitely do that.
Yeah.
A worthy YouTube visit. You'll be in that spiral for quite some time, because then you're going to find 15 other NBAers that you didn't do it, because that's what happens to me.
All right, looks like I'm calling out sick tomorrow. I hope nobody I work with listens to this.
I hope they do. We need all the listeners we can get.
That's true. I'll sacrifice that for getting yelled at at work. But so let's move on to the next one here. This is almost an ode to my buddy Joey Kaz, who he lived in Bethlehem. We hung out all the time there, and he was from Buckhead, Georgia. So naturally, he was an Atlanta Hawks fan. And during that tenure, Jeff Teague was a really big time Hawk. So anytime we would have a Hawks game on, all he would say during the entire Hawks game was, "Where's Jeff Big League Teague at? I need Big League Teague in my life." And the nickname makes no sense. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if Joey invented this. I don't know if it's a big thing down in Atlanta. I have to surmise it will. But because of that, every time I see Jeff Teague, I immediately yell out, "Oh, what's up? It's Big League. There he is. Jeff Big League Teague."
That makes no sense following his game or stature.
Zero sense at all. But those are the best nicknames oftentimes. And it wouldn't be me making a take on something if it was a little bit out of left field, or it wasn't a little bit out of left field. So
well, look, if this incepts my brain, by the way, and anytime that name is mentioned, I'm gonna lose my shit. I will then be the awkward white guy yelling, "It's Big League Teague."
Yeah. The good thing is he plays in Minnesota, and we probably won't be watching too many of those games this year.
I don't know. Maybe. We'll see how things roll. I'm a Rocco guy.
That's true.
My last one, and we're not going to talk about it, but just because he was my Michael Jordan, Black Mamba. I love the alter ego thing. I have loved every single one of his. I think he's done 3 now of those like documentary type of things, and I love anytime he sits there and talks about like that kind of transformation. And there's like very few athletes, like him and Brian Dawkins immediately come to mind as like people who you can tell like their instincts and who they are as a person change when fully submerged in their craft and doing what it is that they love. Kobe Bryant was that guy. So developing that Black Mamba personality was sick to watch. Big Kobe guy.
Yeah, I noted not big Kobe guy, but I do respect the mindset that he gets into, and I can, respect that kind of hard work he put on. I think that's what it takes to be as successful as Kobe Bryant has been, both on the court and off the court. So you definitely got to give it up for Black Mamba. It's a classic nickname. I knew you were going to go this route too. That's one of the reasons I didn't bring it up. And we would be remiss if we didn't mention that he did give himself that nickname. So it is a little bit weird.
Doesn't matter.
But if you're as good as Kobe Bryant, you can get away with that.
You can do whatever the hell you want.
Exactly. My lone honorable mention here is another alter ego, and I don't think people mention how fucking weird this was enough. When Ron Artest changed his name to Meta World Peace.
World Peace. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's not a nickname because it's his actual name. But what the hell was that? Like
I don't know, man. It's so I always find like there are a handful, like AB is another perfect one. I sit there and I wonder if you put him into a different era of time, would he be as mentally screwed up as he is? And like Meta World Peace, when he when he was still Ron Artest, like the media and social media wasn't what it is today yet. So like he did that like before he had the opportunity for society to totally fuck him up. That's impressive. Like he's clearly not right on his own. Like we may have screwed up AB, not you and I personally, but this world today.
Yeah.
Meta World Peace. That he's a weird cat, man. He is a weird dude. My favorite interview, I think one of my favorite interviews of all time, is when Kobe Bryant passed in the ball and he was freaking the hell out on us in the post game, saying, "Oh my God, Kobe passed me the ball," just like that. And I'm like, you are like 6'9". Your name is Meta World Peace. I don't really think you can talk like this. This is bizarre to me. But yeah, nice honorable mention. I dig that. All right, so now the better part of this little bit here, this little inner segment thing, we're going to try to speak nicknames into existence. So I will be honest, I am not proud of the nicknames that I have come up with yet. So what I'm going to do for my portion of this is I'm going to stick to my one player to whom I'm trying to create the perfect nickname for. I will give each one of the nicknames that I have come up to, and you will vote on whichever one is the best. And we'll carry that on to the next week for mine, where I will spend the rest of my week, because I have entirely too much time on my hands, trying to come up with something better than what we have selected the week before. You can do this however the hell you want. I know that you probably have nicknames that are creative and actually make sense. So let's start with yours first.
Okay, so I also went similar to you, and I realized, number one, it's really hard to think of nicknames. So even
hard.
more impressive that Kobe Bryant gave himself the Black Mamba mantra. I came up with one, and I'm going to stick to just one, and I'm going to live and die by this. So I'm going to go with Norvel The Swell Pelle. It's a lot of rhyming. It's a very mouthy nickname. But if we can start calling Norvel Pelle The Swell instead of Norvel or Pelle, which, oh God, that just sounded like a Dr. Seuss lyric right there. But nothing would make me happier in this world than getting Mark Zumoff to call him The Swell. So we're going to see if we can get this to stick.
First of all, I'm writing that down. That may have just booted out your angry Jazz fans. So here's the thing. And I don't know if you've noticed in my text messages or messages in the WhatsApp with the AMYP team, I utilize swell often. I thought I was the only one, and here it turns out I am not. I am in full support of this, and I will help you speak this into existence, especially because I also love Norvel Pelle.
Yeah.
He is hilarious to me.
And to give a little bit of meaning back to it as well, a swell is a lot of giant waves coming at you. Norvel Pelle is 6'11". He's going to lead the league in blocks someday, if he ever gets off this two-way contract with Delaware. But, hopefully gets out there and, has a couple big blocks this year. And you better believe I will be up on my feet yelling, "That's my boy. That's the swell."
Oh, I love it. All right, so we got Norvel the Swell Pelle. All right, solid. So I guess you can assume I am trying to find nicknames for the 7th best player in the NBA, the most handsome player in the NBA, Zhaire Smith. So I have 4 names, and I am not overly proud or committed to any of them. So I'll let you decide which ones stay. So I went with a little bit of a play on words and an ode to the movie. Lucky number 11, 7th best player in the NBA. Lucky number 11 was obviously a gag to sit there and get someone killed. I think he's going to be a killer shooter. Lucky number 11. I don't love it, but it's okay. Next one I have is strictly just dice. I don't like that one either.
I like it.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know why, but I do.
All right. So far, so dice over lucky number 11. Next one I have is Craps God, which I don't know if that's going to work. I feel as though the second he has like a 8% shooting night, they're just going to really flip that into something not great. And then the last one I have as an ode to his handsomeness is Zhaire GQ Smith. Of the 4,
like
where are we sticking?
I like Dice.
Dice?
I don't know why though. Yeah. I think it's a great nickname.
All right. So, as mentioned, I will sit here and carry my nicknames until we find one that we are both as keen to taking as the Norvel The Swell Pelle, because that was immediately one that I can envision myself saying in his 14 minutes in the first 3 months combined. Okay. But I will be excited for it.
I think this is a good poll we should throw out on Twitter, though, if you're for Zhaire nicknames. Let's get those out there. Let's see what the people think about it.
All right, I respect it.
I'm curious. I want to know what everyone else is thinking here.
All right, well, no one's going to understand lucky number 11. I hope they do, but I don't think they will. But I'm putting it up there anyway. So for right now, our tentative selection is Dice. If the people say otherwise, we'll bring that to a vote next week. Regardless, I will sit here and continue to come up with different names for our 76ers seventh best player in the NBA, Zhaire Smith, until we find one that is 100% going to be announced by Mark Zumoff.
Absolutely.
All right, couple of last things before we sign off for TJs One of Us on this one. 76ers sign Roy Hibbert as their player development coach. Kind of something no one really cares about, to be totally honest. However, Elton Brand started out in that same position, and now he's our GM 14 months later, or something ridiculous like that. Not that I would expect the same kind of rise, but what is your kind of takeaway, if you have one, on Roy Hibbert, former 7'2", and I think number 9 selection overall in the draft in his year? What's your reaction to him being the player development coach here in Philly?
First I kind of saw it and was like, oh, cool. I forgot Roy Hibbert existed a little bit. Then I had a little bit of an epiphany. Roy Hibbert's only 32. So,
yep.
I mean, I think this is a good pickup to get him in the organization. I think he's going to mesh well with Joel Embiid and the rest of the big guys we got. I think it's definitely a good pickup. He was one of the more dominant big men of the last 10 years. I mean, strictly big men. Obviously, he didn't have much else to his game, but he was a great defensive player. He knows how to work the post. I mean, it's a good pickup. And can you imagine if we get some Jackie Moon player coach action in Delaware? Wouldn't that be unbelievable? You think we can swing that?
I hope we can, and it was a point I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
So there were several things that intrigued me about the Hibbert thing. One, yes, 32 years old, not super far removed, and I always find, and it's the direction that all sports are going right now. They're moving away from, these 55, 60, 65, 70-year-old coaches and scouts and all these different things. They're trying to implement connectability between these players and the organizations and keep it all in that same wavelength. At 32 years old, he's just removed from the NBA, and he's not far removed from what it was like trying to fight for your contracts and understanding how to navigate the world and your life as an NBA superstar or star role player, what have you. So I think that's invaluable to the young guys. I think that it's invaluable to some of our vets who are approaching those late 20s and in the middle of their contracts. 2, he's very defensive-minded during his playing career, and that bodes well for a coach like Brett Brown, who's very defensive-minded, and for Elton Brand, who has built a team specifically on length and wingspan and defense. Having a guy here who can help preach that with these bigs, that's big. Another underrated thing was if Jonah Bolden has a shot at maturing at all and becoming a serviceable NBAer, maybe not even here, I think it'll be kind of at the hands of Roy Hibbert. And then that last thing was, 100%. I would dig it if all shit, if everything hits the fan this year and we're like, we could use a 32-year-old guy still in average playing shape. Kyle O'Quinn's out for 3 months. Why not? I would dig it.
That would be unbelievable if we give him the 10-day contract and you're midway through the year when we're just looking for some bench talent. Like, why not? I mean, Hibbert was definitely good for most of his career. I mean, he played with the Pacers and the Lakers, if I'm correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was good. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think it's a good pickup for the Sixers.
Yeah, I agree. So our last thing, we saved it, or we're going to save some of these topics and different things for another show. But as always, we will end this one with a Zhaire's stash. Now, I will talk about Zhaire Smith as often as possible. I actually have a name this week that may rival the most handsome man in the NBA, Zhaire Smith. So I can't wait to get your ruling on this. So let's start with you first, and then we'll go to me. Who are you stacking up against Zhaire this week?
So we were doing a little bit of reading on NBA stars that had a stint in movies, and one of the names I came across was Rick Fox. Rick Fox
My
is
God.
retired, but he is a good-looking man. There's no real other way to put it. In my reading, I figured out that he is Afro-Bohemian, which I think he might be the only Afro-Bohemian person that exists in the world. So he's got this unique like magic race thing going on. Whatever it is, it works. I hated him in LA. I hate him in basketball. I kind of hate seeing someone like that with just everything going on for him. But he's up there. He's going to rival Zhaire.
Here's the problem. There are actors, musicians, athletes, different things that when they come on the screen, I instinctively get angry for reasons that are absurd. And I'll be sitting there with Stephanie. I'll say that's just not fair. You can't be that multi-talented and that handsome. It gives the rest of us a bad look. Rick Fox is one of those guys. He is one of those guys.
I bet he speaks like 4 languages too, and like is great with kids and
everything.
Fuck. Now I don't like him anymore. I take my pick back.
Well, that's the thing. I have to at least consider that a push, because he is one of like the 5 or 10 people who when they come on screen, for whether it's in his acting or if he's on analyzing a game or when he was playing, I got irrationally angry every damn time. And he seems like such a genuine nice guy. Like,
yep.
Yeah, I hate him, but I think it's at least a push right now in terms of the handsome factor there with Zhaire. So he's got some competition this week.
Okay.
So my selection is, I sent you the tweet. The 76ers did an awkward, I don't know why they chose to do this, but when looking at Matisse Thybulle in the ball pit, which I don't know if you saw that photo or not.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I said it in the text. I didn't know that I needed it in my life, but apparently I did. Yeah. Matisse Thybulle is fucking adorable. Like I don't know that you can sit here and call him like and compete with the handsomeness of what Zhaire Dice Smith is. But like the 7th best player in the NBA right now may have some competition in his own locker room with Matisse Thybulle. Also, there was a second, one of my buddies, he writes for, I want to say he writes for Phillies Nation. Phillies Nation or The Good Fight he writes for. I don't know which one, but Johnny Heller, he had put a response to that tweet that said, great. Now the next tweet that we get from the 76ers is going to be he's out with some conjunctivitis or some shit that he got whilst playing in a ball pit. And it was, I almost peed myself. So Johnny, good on you, dude. That was a quality response tweet there. But let's get your official ruling here. Matisse Thybulle, how's he stack up against Zhaire Dice Smith?
I'm going to say he doesn't quite eclipse him, only because you used the only word you can to describe the picture, and it's adorable. You can't. Yeah, I mean, I see that like it could be an ad for some like after school like children's thing where it's like, yo, come hang with Matisse, like he'll take great care of everyone. Like I'm trusting that guy with my future kids. He looks great. Like, it doesn't eclipse our boy Zhaire Dice Smith. Which, how'd it feel using the nickname for the first time, dude?
It sounds like a hyphenated name. It doesn't sound like a nickname.
I keep thinking Dice K now.
Oh my God. I don't know. I'm not loving it, but if I try hard enough and keep using it enough, who knows? I'll have to see how it looks on the t-shirt. And while talking about the t-shirt, my very multi-talented friend Asian Rob, who does some of our artwork for us and things of the sort, Just Food. You should definitely eat at Just Food. You should also use them for your catering services. Just Food is located in Bucks County, PA. It's in Buckingham Green Shopping Center, just above Peddler's Village. Treat yourself, take it home. 215-794-FOOD. That's 215-794-3663. This is actually the first week that I have not gone and seen Asian Rob in quite some time, but Stephanie was on vacation, so we ate around the house a lot more than we normally do. So that was kind of nice. But you will be damn certain that I will be visiting Asian Rob next week to eat more food that I probably can't pronounce the name of. There's also food you can. Just Food, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home. He's also going to design the Zhaire Smith t-shirt, and I can't wait for it. Do you have any final thoughts, sir, on the 76ers or anything in general?
I have a warning for our listening audience this week. And that warning is be careful with online shopping when you drink. So I learned the hard way that, have you ever heard Liquid Swords?
I have not.
It's okay. So it's a classic Wu-Tang album. It's GZA and RZA. It's old school 90s. It's completely out of something that I should like, but I love it. I came home the one night from the bar and I threw Liquid Swords on. I haven't listened to it probably since college, and I was all about it. I went and found out that there was a t-shirt that GZA had put out that was stupidly expensive. And I went on StockX, which is a great app for sneakerheads. You can buy aftermarket sneakerheads or sneakers or watches or other things that I usually just kind of look at and don't buy. And I put a weird bid in for it, and I forgot that I did that. So now I'm sitting here 3 weeks later, and I'm now the proud owner of a Liquid Swords t-shirt that cost me $73.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, I will be looking to resell this t-shirt because I cannot wear a Wu-Tang shirt. And, yeah, be careful what you online shop for.
We have to post this to our followers. We have to see if one of them are dumb enough to buy it. I know.
Good. It is a cool shirt, but $73 is steep.
Yeah, Jesus. I was happy ending with the shirt. Fuck. Unbelievable. But yeah, hey, good lesson for you. Don't drink and listen to that album. Oh my God.
Yeah.
$73 for a t-shirt.
Yeah.
All right. Well, a lot going on here at AMYP this week. We had our first of two articles dropping on Gabe Kapler. One is supporting Gabe Kapler. The other one is saying that his time has come up. Later in the week, we'll have a debate between the two writers of each of those pieces. I will host that debate. It's going to be like a courtroom. It should be fun. I don't know that either of them are going to be prepared for it, but we're going to give it a go anyway. They're two of our newest writers, and I'm very excited about it either way. You should definitely take a look at those articles and all of the other articles that we post and publish almost daily now. It's www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. You can find this segment and all of our other segments on that website, or you can subscribe to the podcast. You can find any links that you need on our Twitter. It is at ANY Podcast. You can find me, the host of this segment, and 48 others, not an exaggeration, real number, 48 other podcasts, Shane_Mead. You would think I'd be better at this because of the 48 podcast. Scott, where can we find you? I can't remember your tag at this moment.
It is SP Novick.
Got it. P. Paul? Patrick?
Patrick, yeah.
I think this is the second episode I've had to do that.
Yeah, it'll
it's
come
not like
up
we're
a couple
family.
more times too. No, it's
I'm
fine.
sure.
Yeah, so look for as soon as I get this stupid t-shirt in, I'll post a picture for everyone so you guys can call me an idiot on the internet for drunkenly buying that. But yeah, follow me at SP Novick on Twitter.
There you go. That'll be it. We will send this one off to the Jackdaws, another one of our sponsors, to which you should also support. They will be in New York and Philadelphia and possibly New Jersey in late September, early October. So I think it's a 6-week string there. I really got to get those dates, but it's www.thejackdaws.com. So we will send this off to them, and Scott and I will see you next week.
Revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with a win. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square up that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and